Hi everyone, welcome to this lecture. There are times when you specify a variable into integer and then you needed to convert that into a float later on, or similarly you define a variable into a string but you needed to convert that into a float or integer. So the process of doing these is known as a variable casting in a Python. So we have three type of the casting which Python supports. One is the integer, and then we have a float, and then str. For example, suppose that you define a variable a equal to 5, and then of course the value of this variable a is 5 there, and type of this variable a is integer there. But suppose that you want to convert this into a floating point numbers, then how would you do that? Either you can do like something this, and then you can say that the type of a would be float, but this is the process of like reassigning a variable with the same value again by putting this point. But suppose that you don't have that liberty to redefine the variable with the new value, so we need to reutilize these variables from here to here. Suppose that now I assign these variable into these values into b variable. Then I do here a float of a. So the float of a becomes there a float number, and the type of b, which is a float, will be a float there. For example, if you print there b, you will see there the value of this variable b is now 5.0. That means this is a float number. Similarly, if you have any variable which is already in a float, if you want to convert that into the integer, then you can simply cast that variable by using int there. So you can put there int b. Now you see there int b has become there a 5. Alright, perfect. Now suppose that you want to convert these float or integer number into string, then how would you do that? It is very much simple. You can simply do here str a, then that becomes as the string here. I think we assigned a earlier as the float. Let's go ahead and assign that a as integer. Alright, so now this a was the integer, but by casting it with the string, it becomes their string. Similarly, you can also cast a float value into a string as well, like strb. It becomes their 5.0 there. Now this becomes as the string value here, str. Do remember, this string 5.0 is definitely not equal to 5.0 because the type of these variables are different. Whenever you need to combine two variables together, whenever you need to compare two variables together, the type of the data should be same there. Suppose that now you have a string data. Alright, let's say the c is equal to str of a. Now this we have a string data. And now I ask you to convert this string into an integer. Then how would you do that? You can simply do that like int c, it becomes here integer. And similarly, you can do here a float c, it becomes a float. But you know the concept is here. Suppose that if I ask you to convert this b, which is a float, first convert this b into string. Alright, now it has become here string 5.0. Now if I ask you to convert this string into the integer, then how would you do that? You know the simplest way to do that, something like that, int d. But you know this is showing the error. The reason is when we are evaluating this string here, alright, this is a float, and the float string cannot be converted directly to the integer. So how would you do that? So this type of the string data you need to first convert into a float, and then you can convert back to the integer. So it should be something like that. First float 5.0 and thereafter you can do the integer of this float. So the conversion of a float number which is already a string to an integer is a two-step process, where you need to first get the floating point number and thereafter you need to get the integer number out of that floating point. Alright, perfect. So this is all about in this lecture. In the next lecture, we will evaluate the string data type in details. Alright, I'll see you then.